Hey guys, it's the best of hockey and I'm back with another video, and today I'm finally making my Stanley Cup predictions. I know it's coming out late, but I couldn't do anything about it. In any case, I have a bracket challenge and the description will be down below. It's called the best of hockey, so just search me up and you'll find me. Again, the link is in the description down below. So let's just get straight into this. In round one, Toronto versus Montreal, I got Toronto in 6 games. I think that Toronto's offense is much better. They have game-breaking talent and they have much better depth. And Montreal will win some games because a lot of their veterans are coming back. And if Carey Price plays well, like he usually does in the playoffs, then it could go the distance. Also, this is if Anderson struggles as well. So it'll be a pretty close series. I'll say that the longer the series goes on, the better chance Montreal has of winning it, but I got Toronto in 6. In the next one, Edmonton versus Winnipeg, I got Edmonton in 6 games. The Oilers have Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, who will just carry their offense, and I think that they'll beat the Leafs, the Jets, in a pretty close series. And Hellebuck might push this series longer than necessary, but I think that the Oilers have, they've done well enough against the Jets this year. I think they've beaten them quite a few times this year. And the Jets are also slacking coming into this playoff, so I think it'll be Edmonton in 6 games. On to the next matchup, Colorado versus St. Louis. I got Colorado in 5 games. Colorado is clearly the heavy favorite. They won the President's Trophy for a reason. They got talent everywhere on their roster. I think that they're just going to beat St. Louis pretty easily, and I think that the Blues can win 1 game, but it won't be close. Colorado in 5 games. So next is Vegas versus Minnesota, and this is a very close series that will go the distance. This season was very even, so anything can happen. I think Kirill Kaprizov will lead the Wild's offense, but it won't be enough to beat the more experienced Golden Knights, who will win this in 7 games. And this will also come down to goaltending, as Fleury and Leonard are much better than Talbot and Kakkonen. So Vegas in 7. Next series is Pittsburgh versus the New York Islanders. And I think the Penguins have been dominant lately, while the Islanders have been slacking coming into the playoffs. But I think that they will upset the Penguins. And it will come down to goaltending as well. And Varlamov has played much better than Jari has this year. So I think that they will kind of upset the Penguins and move on to round 2 in Game 7. The next matchup is Washington versus Boston, and I think that the Bruins will win this in 7 games. So both are pretty close on paper, but the Caps goaltending aren't experienced, and Kuznetsov has also taken a step back this year. And the Bruins have a ton of experience. They got good goaltending, so I think they will win this in 7 games. I think this will shock a few people, but for the most part, what I've seen is that they believe Boston will win this series as well. In the next matchup, Carolina versus Nashville. Honestly, Nashville has been really hot lately and has actually beaten Carolina in their last 2 games. Regardless of that, I think that they will lose in 6 games to a much better Hurricanes team on paper. So both teams have great goaltending. UC Saros has just carried the Predators especially. So I think it'll be very interesting, and maybe Saros can win this series, but I think that Carolina's defense will lead them to a close victory in 6 games. And finally, Florida versus Tampa Bay. This is probably the closest series in round 1, and although both teams are stacked offensively, I think that based on Tampa Bay's experience and the return of their superstars Steven Stamkos and Nikita Kucherov, that the Tampa Bay Lightning will move on to the second round in 7 games. And also this will depend on if Bobrovsky starts. I think if he does, then Florida loses the series for sure. Now, moving on to round 2, Toronto versus Edmonton, and I don't think that this will be a very close series. I think Toronto has much more depth on offense and defense, so I'm going to say Toronto in 5 games. Again, the longer this series goes, the better the chance the Oilers have at winning this, but I think that If they can somehow shut down Connor McDavid like they did for 3 games this season, it will end pretty fast. So that'd be pretty disappointing because I like the Oilers. Moving on, Colorado versus Vegas. This will come down to the wire. Both teams are super stacked on paper. Vegas has the edge on goaltending, while Colorado is better offensively. And they both have some grit too, so it'll be a very physical series. But in the end, I think that Colorado will win this in 7 games. And probably in overtime as well, instead of losing in overtime like they did last year. In the next matchup, the New York Islanders versus the Boston Bruins. So I'm going to go Boston in 6 games. I think it'll be a very close series, but Boston will end up winning it. The Islanders have great defense, and I think that Boston's offense will be too much to handle. I think that although this will end in 6 games, the series will be very low scoring, and we'll have very tight games, probably like 1-goal games. So yeah, Boston in 6, but it'll be very close. In the next matchup, Carolina versus Tampa Bay. This will be another very, very close series. Carolina is like a young team with great talent, basically everywhere, while Tampa Bay is the defending Stanley Cup champions, so will end up being a very close result, like a slaughter till the end. But I think that in 7 games, Carolina moves on. And my only reason for this is that in most years it's very hard to win it all, like win the Stanley Cup and then make it back to the conference finals. So I think that this is where the young team can finally beat the Tampa Bay Lightning. Now, moving on to round 3, Colorado versus Boston. And Colorado-Boston would be a very good series, and again, this would be extremely close. And I think this is the toughest decision that I had to make for this predictions video, because on paper, Colorado is a better team, and they have everything it takes to win, but my gut tells me that they're not going to make the finals this year. Especially since everyone's predicting them to win the Stanley Cup, I think they're going to buckle under the pressure. And Boston is more experienced as well. They have those veterans that have won Stanley Cups and made it to the finals in 2013 and 2019. They have deadly offense as well. So they probably have the best line in hockey. So I'm going to have to say Boston in 7 games. This could probably go to overtime, if not double overtime. But I think in the end, Boston wins the series. And then moving on to Toronto versus Carolina. On paper, this is a pretty tough series, but I think it will come down to goaltending, which is why Carolina has a much bigger advantage because they have 3 great options to start. I'm going to have to go and say Carolina wins this in 6, and I would think that for the most part, most people would agree with me in saying that Toronto played the easier matchups against the Canadian teams and will therefore lose to a stacked Carolina team in round 3 in Game 6. And now this brings me to my Stanley Cup Finals, Boston versus Carolina. And I have to say, this is going to be a very entertaining series, as both have great offensive talents, while Carolina has the edge on defense, and goaltending is basically identical. This will be a very physical series in my opinion, and because of that, as well as the need for some sweet old revenge, the Stanley Cup winning team this year will be the Boston Bruins, and they will win this for the first time since 2011. And I know, most of you guys think I'm crazy, but I did predict that the Blues would win in 2019, and I was very close to predicting that the Lightning would win last year, so you never know. And I think that Carolina will give them a run for their money, and they'll make it to Game 6, where they will ultimately fall short and lose to Brad Marchand, hoisting the Stanley Cup in the end. So that's my prediction for the Stanley Cup this year. Let me know down below if you guys agree with me, if you disagree with me. I know most of you guys will probably disagree with me, but this is what I think. Don't leave hateful comments down below. Just let me know respectfully what you think. Thank you for watching this video. Make sure to watch my Stanley Cup pump up video if you haven't watched that already. That took me a long time to make, so go show some love. And thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys soon with another video.